There comes a time in your life when holding on becomes heavier than letting go. When the weight of certain people drains your energy, distorts your vision, and disconnects you from the person you are meant to become. Release is not abandonment. Release is alignment. It is the recognition that not everyone who walked with you deserves to stay with you. The first reason to release someone who never deserved you is simple. Your spirit already knows what your mind tries to negotiate. When someone continuously wounds your peace, your intuition whispers the truth long before you admit it. Your inner self always recognizes misalignment before you do. The second reason is that your value cannot be seen by eyes that are blinded by their own insecurity. Some people mistreat you not because you are unworthy, but because they cannot comprehend your depth. They are intimidated by your light, your strength, your kindness. Releasing them is not a loss, it's a return to self-respect. The third reason is that attachment is not the same as connection. You can be deeply attached to someone who is not good for you. You can feel loyal to someone who misuses your loyalty. But true connections nourish. They don't drain. When your heart is consistently suffocated, release becomes an act of self-rescue. The fourth reason to let go is that your path is evolving, even if others choose to remain the same. Growth creates distance. Maturity creates separation. When someone refuses to rise with you, life naturally pushes them out so you can continue forward. Their absence is a sign that your destiny requires more than they are capable of offering. The fifth reason is that you cannot heal in the same environment that hurt you. Remaining connected to someone who wounds you prevents transformation. Release creates space for clarity, strength, and renewal. Healing requires distance, not punishment, not anger, simply distance. The sixth reason is that you deserve relationships that reflect who you are becoming, not who you had to be to survive. When you evolve, your relationships must evolve as well. Those who cannot meet you at your new level will try to pull you back to your old one. Release protects your future from the weight of your past. And finally, the seventh reason, letting go is not losing. It is choosing yourself. You reclaim your power. You restore your peace. You return to the truth of your worth. Some people were chapters, not the whole story. Some people were lessons, not lifelong companions. Releasing them does not diminish your journey, it elevates it. So walk forward without fear, release with grace. And know this, the people who truly deserve you will never make you question your value, your voice, or your place in their life. They will meet you with the same depth, clarity, and sincerity that you are ready to give. Your intuition recognizes misaligned people long before your conscious mind is willing to accept it. It speaks in subtle ways, through uneasiness in your body, tension in your spirit, or a quiet sense that something is off, even when everything looks fine on the surface. This inner knowing is ancient. It carries wisdom gathered from your experiences, your subconscious observations, and the emotional patterns you've learned to decode without realizing it. Long before someone shows their true intentions, your intuition is already reading the tone in their voice, the inconsistencies in their behavior, the shifts in their energy. It notices the way they dismiss your feelings, the way they turn connection into confusion, or the way they treat your empathy as an advantage rather than a privilege. Even when your mind writes excuses or reasons to stay, your inner self whispers the truth. You are not safe, you are not valued, you are not aligned here. Often, we silence this internal voice because we want to believe in people more than we want to confront the truth about them. We tell ourselves they will change. We convince ourselves we are being overly sensitive. We hold on to the potential of who they could become, instead of seeing who they consistently choose to be. But intuition does not deal with fantasies, it deals with patterns. When someone's presence feels heavy, when their energy dims your own, when your joy shrinks around them without explanation, your intuition is signaling a misalignment. It is not trying to alarm you, it is trying to protect you. It senses the disconnect between who you are and how they treat you, between what you deserve and what you are settling for. Ignoring this inner wisdom often leads to repeated hurt, disappointment, or emotional exhaustion. You begin to question yourself instead of questioning the situation. You start feeling responsible for holding together something that was never meant to stand. But the more you listen to your intuition, the more you recognize the early red flags, the lack of reciprocity, the subtle disrespect, the emotional distance disguised as mystery, the charm that masks instability, the promises that never turn into actions. Your intuition does not just identify misaligned people, it guides you toward the relationships that are meant for you. When you finally honor that quiet voice, you protect your peace, you honor your worth, and you create space for people whose presence feels like truth, not confusion, expansion, not contraction, alignment, not fear. Some people cannot appreciate your worth because they are limited by their own insecurity. When someone is struggling with their own sense of inadequacy, your strength becomes a reminder of everything they feel they lack. Your confidence highlights their self-doubt. Your kindness exposes their emotional immaturity. Your stability magnifies their internal chaos. Instead of being inspired, they feel threatened. Instead of admiring who you are, they try to minimize it so they can feel more comfortable beside you. It's not that you are too much. It's that they have not yet grown into the version of themselves that can stand beside someone like you without shrinking. Their inability to value you is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of the limits they have placed on themselves. People who are insecure often respond to strength with resistance. They may downplay your achievements, dismiss your feelings, or twist your compassion into something they can control. They may treat your kindness as a weakness, testing how far they can push you, not realizing that your patience is a sign of maturity, not naivety. They may pull away when you show authenticity because they fear being seen in their own vulnerability. They may mock your dreams because they've abandoned their own. Their reactions are not about you, they are about their discomfort with themselves. When someone hasn't healed, they can't fully receive the presence of someone who has done the work. Your light can feel overwhelming to someone who is still sitting in their shadows. Your clarity can feel confronting to someone who survives on confusion. Your emotional depth can feel threatening to someone who avoids their own feelings, so rather than rising to meet you, they may try to dim you. They may criticize you subtly, give you inconsistent affection, or make you question what you bring to the table. This happens because your worth exposes what they haven't yet developed: self-awareness, emotional intelligence, responsibility, courage. And instead of addressing their gaps, they try to make you doubt yourself. But the truth is, you deserve people who recognize your heart, not fear it. People who admire your strength instead of competing with it. People who feel safe in your presence rather than intimidated by it. When someone cannot appreciate you, it's not a sign to shrink. It's a sign to step away, because the right people will meet your worth with gratitude, not insecurity, with respect, not jealousy, with reciprocity, not resistance. Attachment can be harmful when it replaces genuine emotional connection. It often forms from fear. Fear of being alone, fear of abandonment, fear of losing something you've invested time, effort, or love into. When you're attached, you hold on not because the relationship nourishes you, but because you're afraid of what letting go might mean. Attachment creates an illusion of closeness, but it lacks the depth that true emotional connection provides. Instead of feeling understood, you feel dependent. Instead of feeling supported, you feel bound. You start confusing proximity with intimacy, consistency with compatibility, and familiarity with love. This kind of attachment can make you ignore your own needs, silence your own voice, and tolerate things you would never accept if you felt whole within yourself. You may start convincing yourself that the bare minimum is enough, that the emotional distance is normal, that the absence of affection is a temporary phase, and that their inconsistency is something you can fix with patience. But attachment thrives on hope, not reality. It feeds on what you wish the relationship could be rather than what it truly is. You begin romanticizing the potential of the other person while sacrificing your own emotional well-being in the process. Genuine emotional connection feels different. It doesn't demand your self-abandonment. It doesn't make you anxious or unsure. It grows from mutual respect, understanding, and reciprocity. But when attachment replaces that true connection, you can find yourself clinging to someone who doesn't meet you emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. You hold on because you fear the emptiness that might follow, not because the relationship fills you with warmth or meaning. You compromise your standards just to keep the relationship alive, even when you're the only one feeding it. Attachment also blinds you to red flags. You excuse behaviors that hurt you, justify inconsistencies, and rewrite your own boundaries to maintain the illusion of closeness. You feel lonely even when you're with them, but the idea of leaving feels unbearable. This tension wears down your sense of self, your confidence, and your emotional clarity. And the longer you stay attached without true connection, the more disconnected you become from yourself. Recognizing this is not a sign of failure, it's a sign of awakening. When you understand that attachment is not love, you create space for healthier connections. You learn to choose relationships that nourish rather than drain, relationships rooted in truth rather than fear, and in choosing genuine connection, you choose yourself. Growth naturally removes people who refuse to evolve with you. As you change, your values shift, your priorities mature, and your inner world expands. You begin to see life through a clearer lens, recognizing what once felt acceptable no longer aligns with who you are becoming. This evolution creates distance, not out of anger or rejection, but out of necessity. When you grow, you elevate your standards, your mindset, and your boundaries. And not everyone is willing or prepared to rise with you. Some people remain attached to old versions of you because it's the only version that made them comfortable. They prefer the familiar, even if it stunted your growth, and when you start evolving, it disrupts the dynamic they benefited from. Growth exposes the imbalance in relationships. You begin noticing who supports your progress and who feels threatened by it. Some individuals may subtly discourage your ambitions, dismiss your self-improvement, or pull you back into old habits, because your evolution highlights their stagnation. They do not envy your growth. They fear what it means for the relationship. When you outgrow someone, it's rarely dramatic. It happens quietly, gradually, as you become more aligned with your purpose and less aligned with their limitations. Conversations no longer flow the same. Energies no longer match. You no longer resonate with the negativity, the gossip, the emotional chaos, or the lack of accountability that once surrounded you. It's not that you think you're better, it's that you're different. And difference creates distance. As you transform, life naturally reorganizes your relationships. Opportunities appear that require you to leave certain circles behind. Your inner peace becomes more important than pleasing others, and your intuition starts guiding you toward environments that support your evolution. You begin prioritizing people who inspire growth, not those who drain it. Those who refuse to evolve often fall away because they cling to comfort while you pursue expansion. They stay where they are while you move toward who you were meant to become. This separation isn't punishment, it's alignment. It's life removing what cannot accompany you into your future. The beauty of growth is that it creates space for more aligned connections. People who match your frequency, honor your journey, and value your transformation. As you continue to evolve, you'll realize that letting certain people drift away isn't loss, it's liberation. It's the universe making room for relationships that reflect your highest self. Healing requires distance from those who caused emotional harm because recovery cannot happen in the same environment that created the wounds. When someone repeatedly hurts you, through manipulation, neglect, disrespect, or emotional instability, their presence becomes tied to the pain you're trying to escape. Remaining close to them keeps the wound open. Every conversation reactivates old memories, every interaction triggers familiar patterns, and every attempt at peace becomes a reminder of the hurt they caused. Distance is not about bitterness. It is about creating the space necessary for clarity, emotional regulation, and self-restoration. Without that separation, your mind and heart stay locked in the cycle of hoping, hurting, and healing, only to be hurt again. When you step away, even slightly, you begin to see the relationship for what it truly was, not what you wished it to be. Distance removes the emotional fog that closeness creates. You start recognizing the patterns you once overlooked or justified. You begin to understand the ways in which you minimized your own needs or contorted yourself to preserve the connection. Distance allows you to break the emotional habits that kept you tied to someone who was never willing to meet you with the same sincerity. It gives you room to breathe, to reflect, and to feel without being pulled back into the same emotional turbulence. Healing is a process that thrives in safe environments. When you are still interacting with the person who hurt you, your nervous system remains on alert, scanning for the next disappointment or betrayal. You can't soften. You can't rebuild trust within yourself. You can't fully grieve the version of the relationship you held on to. Distance gives your body and mind permission to relax, to process what happened, and to rebuild your sense of self-worth without interference. It creates silence, where your intuition can finally be heard, where your emotions can untangle, where your thoughts can settle into truth rather than chaos. Distance also helps you regain perspective. You begin to see how much energy you invested, how much pain you normalized, and how much of yourself you sacrificed to maintain a connection that never gave you equal care. The farther you step back, the more you realize that healing is not about changing the other person. It's about returning to yourself. It's about reclaiming your peace, your boundaries, and your inner stability. And in that quiet space, you become stronger, clearer, and more aligned with the relationships that are meant to bring you genuine love, not lingering wounds. Releasing unworthy people is an act of choosing yourself and protecting your future, because it marks the moment you decide your peace, growth, and well-being matter more than holding on to relationships that drain you. When someone repeatedly shows you they cannot meet you with respect, honesty, or emotional presence, keeping them in your life becomes a quiet form of self-betrayal. Letting go isn't about anger or revenge. It's about reclaiming the energy you've wasted trying to fix what was never yours to repair. It's about realizing that your future cannot flourish in the same soil where your spirit was wounded. Releasing people who were never capable of valuing you allows you to stop surviving them and begin rebuilding yourself. Choosing yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. Far too often, you stay connected to unworthy people because you hope they will change, because you fear starting over, or because you've tied your identity to the role you played in their lives. But choosing yourself requires courage. The courage to face the unknown, to walk away from what is familiar but harmful, and to accept that not everyone deserves a seat in the next chapter of your life. When you let someone go, you draw a boundary that says, "My heart is not a place for confusion, chaos, or half-love." You affirm to yourself that you matter. Releasing unworthy people also protects your future. Their presence would only delay what life wants to give you. Their instability would disrupt your peace. Their emotional limitations would stunt your growth, and their lack of accountability would pull you backward every time you tried to move forward. When you remove someone who consistently disappoints or disrespects you, you prevent them from shaping your future with their patterns. You stop repeating cycles that were never meant to define you. You make space for the opportunities, relationships, and experiences that actually match your worth. Most importantly, letting go transforms you. It teaches you to trust your intuition, prioritize your well-being, and honor your dreams. It reminds you that your future deserves people who uplift, support, and understand you, not those who take your presence for granted. When you release what is unworthy, you open the door to what is destined. The act itself becomes a declaration that you are ready for a life built on peace, not pain, on alignment, not struggle, on love, not fear. And that is the greatest form of self-protection you can ever choose. In the end, life is not asking you to hold on. It is asking you to rise. The people who were never meant for your journey were only chapters, not the whole story. Their departure is not your loss, it is your liberation. Every time you choose yourself, you rewrite your future. Every time you walk away from what diminishes you, you step closer to what is meant to elevate you. And every time you release someone who never deserved your heart, you make room for someone who will honor it. So let go with grace. Trust the wisdom of your growth. Stand firmly in your worth. Because the moment you choose yourself, You align your life with people who reflect your strength, your truth, and your becoming. And that is where your real story begins. At the point where you no longer chase what was breaking you, but welcome what is ready to heal, honor, and elevate you.